And welcome back. Previously, we had gone ahead and drawn this face for us to go ahead and get started. And now we're going to go ahead and take the steps to animate this face. And what we want to do is animate a mouth that can work for this. Now, the level of detail that you go into making your mouth depends on how many movements you want to make for the mouth. You can make your movements very complex or very simple, but we're going to focus on just doing a few today and use those to kind of try to create the illusion that this character is talking. So the very first thing we want to do before we even go ahead and actually animate this, I'm going to go ahead and lock our face layer, and I'm just going to create a new layer, and I'm just going to call this text because I want to kind of plan out what I want this character to say. So I'm going to grab my text tool, and let's make sure our fill is just set back to black just so we can know that's nice and separate. And we can go ahead and add in some very basic text that just says like hello. How about hello there? That sounds pretty good. And I'm just going to put 2 lines. And of course we can stylize this if we want. We can change this, vertical spacing back down to 0. But this is more for this purpose right here, just to kind of give us a visual of what the text is. We don't actually need to do anything with this unless we want to, for example, maybe we want to apply a mask across this text, which would be perfectly fine, and we could do that. Now, we have to think about how quickly do we want this to be said. So let's just say that this is going to be said, if we were to say, hello there, this could probably be said in about a second, or maybe even a second and a half. But let's just say we can do this in about 1 second, and we can always adjust this later if we need to. But this is going to, again, give us the planning stage before we actually do any drawing, because it's very important to know what we want to do. So I'm going to make another layer, and I'm going to call this the plan layer. And what I want to do is effectively just come in here and plan what are the different states that I want this mouth to have. And what that's going to allow me to do is effectively plan out the different movements here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and take this. Let's take our font size, bring that down from 100. Let's bring that a little bit smaller. Let's try about 60. And I'm just going to have 1. This will be kind of a O expression. For stage 2, we'll have kind of more of a wide expression. 3, we'll do a open, and 1 more pose we'll have, how about a closed? Alright, and what this does is, again, this is just more for planning purposes, allows me to think what kind of face movements do I want to have. And then I can, of course, from my planning stage, actually go ahead and implement these into the animation. So I'm just going to go ahead and move these over here, just so they're out of the way. And let's go ahead and draw these different pieces here. And so what we actually want to do is put those on the layer here that we can call this dialogue, we can call this mouth, whatever you want to call it. But I'm just going to go ahead and leave this right here. And what I want to do with this animation is, looks like I didn't put this on the first keyframe, so I'll just move that over. There we go. And then I'll just clean this up real quick here. There we go. So here's our animation. Move this up here. All right. So with our oval tool, let's go ahead and do our O animation. And if we think about how a character's mouth would be if they were going to say O, it's pretty easy to think about that. So I'm just going to use the oval tool here. And all I'm going to do is to go ahead and just draw a circle. And so this is effectively adding kind of an O shape. Now, of course, we can adjust our stroke size and stuff like that if we want to really fine tune this. We could add in things like we could put the character's tongue and stuff in here. But effectively, we're just drawing a O. It's just a basic circle. And where you put that is going to be kind of dependent on how you drew your face. But this looks pretty good here just for a O expression. So that is our O, and that's perfectly fine. And I'm just going to go ahead and leave this here for now. Let's go ahead and put him over here because we know that this is eventually going to move onto this mouth. And let's go ahead and now use our Y expression. So again, I'm going to use the oval tool here. And I want to make sure I have kind of more of a width here profile that's going to kind of match that mouth. And you look with profile 1, kind of has that mouth shape here. So we're going to click and drag this across here just a little bit till we find a wide shape. And I'm going to adjust that over. And when this mouth is open now, I might want to do something a little bit more with this shape. So for example, let's just go ahead and lock these other layers here so we don't accidentally grab something from them. But I might want to put some teeth in here. So in that case, instead of using my oval tool, I might use my rectangle tool. I can change my width settings here to try and get something that might be a little more tooth-like. So maybe I want the uniform one this time. And I could, of course, draw in some teeth here. And, of course, you don't see it right now because the teeth aren't colored, but I'm just going to change it to white now. And if I draw these in, you can now see we are now getting more of this kind of a white tooth here. And we can zoom in here to get a little bit better control over this. So you can see one of the things that's happening is we do have a black stroke on this shape. So I'm actually going to just delete that, go back to my rectangle tool. And let's take our stroke and shut that off. So I'm just going to do a no stroke. And now that we are in here, it looks like I have a couple other shapes just kind of laying around here, so I can clean that up. But with that rectangle tool, let's go ahead and just draw in some tooth. Now, if I wanted to make this have more of a lip-like expression here, to kind of have these teeth appear maybe a little more naturally, the way we could fix that is we can either draw a stroke with this being red, or I can use my oval tool again. I can simply change the fill this time to none, make my stroke more of a reddish tone. And what I'm going to do is I can just go ahead and draw this in such a way that it's going to match over top of the original. And we might have to adjust this a little bit, so let's use our free transform tool. And grab that. And again, we might have to do some adjustments on, which is perfectly fine, to get that shape to really bend to where we want it to go. But once everything is all lined up, we can then, of course, easily manipulate this in such a way that it's going to mirror and mimic what we want it to do. And again, you can play around with this till you get the exact kind of shape that you want. So this may not be exactly the shape you're looking for. So for example, maybe I want this to be a little thicker, or maybe I want it to be thinner. Either way, you can play around with it, but this looks pretty good for our O, or wide here. And again, it's not perfect because we could adjust these teeth here a little bit. For example, maybe I want to try and round this out just a little bit. I can grab those corners and bring them up to kind of really help fill those gaps in, so that way it doesn't look so jarringly unnatural. Alright, and if I zoom that out, that looks a lot better. So that's my wide expression there. Now with this one, I gotta be careful here because remember I have multiple pieces here. So I'm just gonna select all those. And what I actually want to do is I want to kind of treat those like they're a group. Alright, and you notice we don't really have a group option. We can convert it to a symbol. I'm not gonna do that quite yet. But I just want to make sure those are all selected before I move them on over to kind of hang out here next to our O expression. Alright, now our open is going to be very similar to this expression. Alright, because this is kind of our wide mouth expression. Our open expression is simply the mouth is fully open. But maybe we have, you could even think of this maybe as more of a smile. And so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this mouth that I just created here. And all I'm going to do to separate the difference between these two shapes is I will actually go into here and I'm just going to edit this in such a way so that way the mouth is maybe more full. So that could mean this bottom row of teeth here, for example, before it was just a little bit of teeth, now maybe it's a full-on smile. So I could go ahead and just expand this. All right, and that's again going to help bring that smile expression a little bit more out. And if we want the closed mouth, that could be pretty simple because we are probably going to use their oval tool again. But we want to have it be in such a way that we have that stroke. Use that red. We're going to use black here for the fill. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an oval. But I might want to change which width I'm using here. And let's try the uniform one. There we go. So this is our closed mouth expression. And right now you can see we have 4 different expressions that we can use. Now, this of course seems like a lot of work for just doing a little bit of animation. But now it is going to go really quickly because now we have all our animations set up. We can actually go ahead and animate this into a proper animation. So I'm going to go ahead and pause this here. Let's actually come back with the next video and take these different pieces now that we've created with the different mouths that we've created to actually go ahead and try to create this hello there phrase.